Want to find a project management tool that is easy to use, collaborative, and free?
Yup!
Well, don't worry friends, I've got you. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how you can utilize Trello for your project management needs. Hi friends, my name is Vanessa, and on this channel, we help learning and development professionals level up not only in learning and development, but also in business. And so today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which actually is project management. And that may be a little bit strange, but I've done a few videos about project management and about some of the tools that I've used. I've mentioned here and there. But I'm going to talk to you about a tool that I use or I have used in the past called Trello. And the reason that I use it for some projects is honestly because it's free. And I don't have to pay for someone to access it. And it's really nice for some projects, you know, as I'm still figuring out what exactly is the best workflow and the best structure in the project management tools that I use. Right now we are going with Zoho Projects, which is kind of more like a smart sheet Gantt chart type of project management tool, but it does have the option to do these listen cards like Trello does, which is nice, but I have to pay for every single user, and since I utilize so many contractors, I don't really want to pay for a whole license just yet. And then the other tool that we use is Basecamp. And I'm still toying around with the idea of just putting everyone on Basecamp. And the reason for that is because Basecamp, you have the option to hide things from the client. So I can actually utilize the message board to have conversations about internal matters, right? And nothing crazy, but like the client doesn't need to see all the back and forth about updating materials and this and that. They just need to see what is important to them. And the only thing that I'm concerned about with Basecamp is making sure that people check off that little checkbox that says, hide this from the client. So I'm still kind of toying around with how I want that to work out. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk Trello. I use Trello to manage projects that I have a lot of deliverables for. I found that to definitely be one of the easiest ways to use it. And it has the ability to, utilize checklists. You have your due dates. You can set up your different lists, and you can, integrate all of your cards. You can add attachments specifically to cards, which is really nice. And you can actually have conversations within cards, so you can keep things together, which I really, really like. I hate when things are going through email, and a lot of my stuff goes through email, and it bugs the heck out of me.
I better manifest some coffee.
Everything just gets messy and things get lost. And then there's that archiving factor that if I have it in a tool like all those conversations in a Basecamp or in a Trello card, I can have that for historical purposes in the future. So that's definitely something that I love about Trello. I also think that it's simple. When you're getting started in the industry, the last thing you want is complex, especially when we're talking about project management, which might not necessarily be a strong suit of yours. I've developed project management skills throughout my years. If you asked me to have the same, if I had the same level of skill early in my career, even maybe, 5 years ago, I probably would say no. But as I've worked on so many different projects and really niched down, I've been able to identify what the tasks are in order to meet a deliverable, timelines, and really be able to scope projects and map it all out on a project management tool. And that's just kind of how my brain works, which helps a lot when it comes to project management. I just kind of have to see everything and be able to organize to-do lists and whatnot, and just organize, where things are in the process. And I also need to visually see it, which is really, really, really nice about Trello, is I actually can look at a board the way that I've set up some boards, and I'll walk you through that in a moment and visually see, okay, what am I working on? What does the client have to review, and what's done? So let's talk a little bit about how I can set up a board. So It kind of depends on whether or not your board is going to be used internally or be a client-facing board. I definitely recommend having something that the client can see so they can see the progress. So if you remember back to a previous video of mine where I talk a little bit about, working with clients and making sure that clients can see that communication, see that progress, and just that check-in that you're not being ghosted. We're actually working on your project and there is progress. So even if you have to set up 2 different boards, I definitely recommend having something that the client can see or just some sort of process in order to check in with them. And so that they're also aware of what their responsibilities are, when they should expect reviews and things like that. So let's start with what I would do for an internal facing board. So I would recommend the following lists on your Trello board. So first are project specifics, and this has nothing to do necessarily, you're not really gonna move any of these things because they're not tasks. I just like to build cards for different things that are important for me to reference throughout the project. So things like a scope of work. I like to put that in there or even if I just take the synopsis of it and put it on a card so I can open it and just see, okay, this is supposed to be a 20-minute e-learning module, level 2 interactivity, all of those types of things. It just makes sure that, I'm always keeping to what was in the scope of work and I'm not either under delivering or over delivering or forgetting something that I'm supposed to deliver. Another thing that I like to put in that project specific card are things like, the learning objectives for the project and who my learning audience is, what's the overall delivery date, kind of all of those things that I need to just keep in the back of my mind and visualize as I'm working. That is on my first list. That way I can see it. I know exactly where to reference it. I'll also put documents in there. So like company logo, my client logo, their brand guidelines, if they have specific SCORM standards that they need me to follow, or a style guide of sorts, all of those things I'd like to put on that first card so that I'm able to continue to reference it and it's all in one place. The next thing I like to put on the board is a list of all of the deliverables. And, if you're working on a larger project that has a lot of different deliverables, so if you're working on something that has, e-learning modules, instructor-led components, facilitator guides, job aids, those are all different deliverables and you're working on them at different times. So that way you can break them out and you always have that list in your deliverable list. You always have that list in your deliverable list, and you're able to then, move them over throughout the rest of the cards to understand where it is in the process, but always making sure that, you're remembering all the items that are on your deliverables. So the next list that I like to put on my Trello board is the in progress list. And this gives me an idea of what exactly we're working on in the moment. And this is just where I can go in and say, okay, we're working on the e-learning module right now. And again, my quick lens. The next list is that I like to use, and this is definitely optional for you, but I like to have an internal QC list. And the reason for that is because I tend to bring in a lot of outside QC resources so that there's someone else looking at my work, someone that has an instructional design background, someone that maybe doesn't. Especially great for things that are like new hire training, because if it doesn't make sense to someone that has no instructional design background, then your new hire probably won't understand what it is that you're trying to present to them. So I like to have that so I know, okay, this is ready for internal QC and someone is reviewing it. And this is also good if you don't have outside resources, just for yourself. You should be getting up and walking away from materials and not QCing it right after you finish writing it, just to give yourself a set of fresh eyes and to just step away. Sometimes when you look so often at a project or so often at a deliverable, you start to see things that aren't actually there because your brain knows it's supposed to be there. So if you don't have the ability to bring in an external resource, then at least just take some time to step away. And having that list, when I come in the morning, it helps me see like, okay, I know I need to now, I have my fresh eyes, I need to review that so I can send it off to the client. The next list that's really good to have is in client review. And that gives you the ability to see like, okay, what's sitting with the client and what are they, working on and what are those due dates that they have? What should be coming back soon and those types of things. It also helps me to, write any notes as I'm seeing things come up, or if I need to extend a due date, I can just do that and I can go right to my one list and I can make any edits as needed. And then finally, I have the done or approved column. And this is my favorite one because it says that a deliverable is done and approved and it's been, given to the client. And that is just a place where I like to keep reference of everything that we've delivered, when I've delivered it, how I've delivered it, whether it's through, a large file share transfer or whether it's through posting on their Teams folder, something like that. But I like to just have that list there. So I could also just see how we're progressing, like when we're about halfway and things like that. And so really my cards travel through the in progress and in internal QC and in client review, and they just kind of work through there. It gives me the overall picture. The other list that I like to have that is definitely not something that you need to have, I just think that is helpful for me, is a lot of times things go on hold. Different priorities come up, COVID happens and everyone needs to, stop instructor-led training and move virtual or whatever the case may be, and projects just go on hold. So having a list titled on hold just gives me the ability to see, okay, what am I waiting for the client to kick back up again? And a little synopsis of why. So when something gets put on hold, maybe it's because someone's going on vacation all of a sudden, or, they're out unexpectedly. So we just need to push some things back. I like to take that deliverable and just throw it in the on hold column or list and just give a, inside the card, just make a note as to why and when we're expecting to pick it back up. And then the other list I definitely recommend is a client action items list. And this is like my dumping ground for things that I need to get from the client. So I don't have to always remember when I'm writing them an email or getting ready for a status meeting. It's like, okay, I have to remember that I need to tell them I need this and that. I just make a card, put it in there, and then it's like, okay, I need their logo. I haven't gotten their specification sheet. I haven't gotten their approval on the learning objectives. I haven't gotten their final review back on this. And I just kind of keep building that list. And as things are completed, I just archive it and I no longer have to see it. But at least that way in the moment, I'm able to put that in a list so I don't forget about it. Now, if you are doing a client-facing board, this is something that it's very similar to the internal board, but it's just a little bit more simplistic. And you don't have to have any of that internal back and forth and like the activity comments field on the different cards. And you may have some things that you don't really need the client to see, and they don't really care to see it. They don't need to know about, all the inner workings of their deliverable. They just need to know that deliverable is done. So I would recommend the following lists. One that says deliverables, one that says in progress. Again, that's cueing to your client. Yes, I am working on your project. It's in progress. Even if it sits there for 3 weeks, at least they know that you're working on it. And then I would do a list titled in review, so they know that they need to be reviewing something. And the last one is approved. This way they can say, okay, these are all the things that we've agreed to for the end of the project. This is what you're working on. This is what my responsibility is that I should be reviewing. And then these are all the things that we've accomplished together. And then remember that client action items list. You want to create a list just like that on your client-facing board. So then you can say, hey, I have these action items listed for you. As you have time, go into Trello, give me your update on those action items, respond back to them. And so that way, we can start crossing off some of those action items. Once you have that information, you can archive that list and you can move on from it. But that's a really good place so that they can see every time they open up the board, these are all the things that they need from you in order for you to complete their project. And since I know that deliverables have so many steps, the nice thing that I like about Trello is that you have, once you go into a card, a checklist options. And I am obsessed with a good checklist. So I go in and this is where I actually really break down what it takes to deliver a 20-minute e-learning module. Okay, I need to get learning objectives. I need to get a design, approved. I need to get the storyboard written. Have we done alpha review? Have we done beta? Have we ordered the voiceover? All of those, little tasks that I would put on a large Gantt chart now go in as a checklist. So I can just open up that deliverable, check it off once it's done, and I'm able to keep track of progress that way, like all the little by little tasks. You can include that in a client-facing board. I think that's kind of nice because that way the client can see, where it is in the deliverable, that, where it is in the process, especially if, some of your deliverables take a little bit longer to deliver. I think that's nice. I also don't know if that's necessary, but it's definitely up to you. I always just find that sharing more about your progress and where you are is better for the client. And it just sets you apart from a lot of other instructional design contractors that maybe don't always go above and beyond with communication. The other thing that I love about the cards is that I can set due dates. So I don't know what's the best, and it really kind of depends on you, because a lot of these deliverables have different tasks that you might have to check in with the client. Like if you're doing an e-learn, you have an alpha, so that due date isn't going to be the final due date for that deliverable. I would work on updating that due date to whatever the next big thing is to check in with the client, right? So if it's the alpha, my due date would be the date that the alpha is due. And somewhere in the description of the card, I would write, what the final due date actually is. So it's in front of my face and I can see it. And the other nice thing is that if you do have team members, you can use the member section to actually tag them to that card. And you can use the at mentioning feature and tag them in different comments and things like that. So if you're waiting on them for something, or if you have a question for them, you can tag them in the activity and they can actually see that card. They can also, because they are now a member of that card, it's going to be their responsibility to also update it and make sure that they're aware of the due date and they can, archive it and do what they need. And there you have it. That's how I would use Trello for project management. It's kind of high level, but I think for a new instructional designer or someone that's trying to get better at project management, it's a simple way to be able to see where all of your projects are. And it's a way to simply share with your client where you are with their deliverables or their project. Are you ready to take your freelance game to the next level? Well, make sure you join the Freelance Learning and Development Network, where we'll share tips and tricks about how we do project management and really all things instructional design. Friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.